So when it comes to urban planning and architectural design, you are often at the mercy of companies like Autodesk, who will charge anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars per year for simulation software, in much the way that companies like Adobe rip off artists by charging hundreds to thousands of dollars per year for creative software. Capitalism be a frick, you know how it be. Alternately, you could just be cheap and spend less than $100 on a video game like City Skylines with a few basic DLCs and be off to the races. That's kind of what I tend to do these days, but this is not without its problems, and the biggest problem with simulating urban design in a game like Cities is the over-reliance on square grid zoning. See, in a game like Cities, you can zone lots that are anywhere from 1x1 to 4x4. According to the internet, a 1x1 square is 64 square meters or 0.015 acres. So a 4x4 zone is going to be 16 times larger, approximately a quarter of an acre. And this 4x4 zone is technically in line with what a real-world residential property is going to be zoned around. A lot of single-family parcels are around a quarter of an acre IRL. Of course, some can be smaller and many will be larger because this is America and you go big or you go home. But the problem with zoning square grids is the world is not flat. The world is curved, it has slopes, it has grades, things have to be built at different angles, and the road networks have to snake accordingly. Nothing really illustrates this more than looking at a real-world city, such as Reno, Nevada. So on the screen, I decided to pick a neighborhood at random. This neighborhood in particular is located in the Lemon Valley area of Reno, Nevada. And you can see it is a mix of single-family residential and multifamily apartment complexes under the name Sky Vista Commons, which I placed a star at for your convenience. Anyway, what you'll notice in an arrangement like this, every parcel has to be front-facing to a roadway, which obviously makes sense because cars. But imagine trying to walk either of these areas. If you live, for example, in the cul-de-sac on Canyon Meadows Drive, and you want to go to the cul-de-sac on Ladonia Court, you can't just go in a straight line. You have to go all the way around the houses in order to get there. And it's just as bad in the nearby Skyview Commons because while the apartments are staggered diagonally, they still have a front-to-back arrangement. So you can see that the pathways snake around and between, and some are longer than others, and imagine getting lost in a place like that. It's all just incredibly non-efficient, but that's America for you. Yet the most damnable offense here is that it leaves an absurd amount of land unused or unavailable for additional housing. Like, you need these wider bi-directional roads in order to navigate what are literal labyrinths, and you also lose space with all the driveways and parking lots that have to jet out at, again, very non-efficient angles. So I want to fix this. I want to create a more walkable neighborhood with a more optimal housing density. So I decided to go into Trimble SketchUp and do just that. And what I have now is an isometric view of a quadruplex apartment network. Basically, all of these buildings have 4 apartments per unit. And the first thing you should be able to notice is that every building in the complex has multiple branching pathways around and between the buildings. You can literally go in almost a straight line from one end to the other. Additionally, this allows me to place units between one-lane, one-way roads, and it results in a narrower, more optimized traffic flow. And now as I swap to the top view, this becomes a lot more apparent, and what's also apparent is that we've completely ditched the all front-facing design. Instead, we alternate front-facing, back-facing, front-facing, etc. So not only are we making the complex more walkable, we have less traffic on each individual one-lane street. Now, when talking about efficiency, we need to talk about population density. In the US, this is usually measured as people per square mile. Now, Reno's population density is measured at around 2,400 people per square mile, which would be just shy of 4 people per acre. As a comparison, let's just take this complex on the whole. Each building is 4 individual apartments, a quadruplex, like I said, and there are 9 of them in this one example, so 36 people, simple math. The dimensions on the file are 166 feet by 250 feet. This works out to approximately 41,500 square feet, which is 0.95 acres, meaning the population density of this area alone is actually 38 people per acre if this arrangement is used across several acres. This complex is literally over 9 times more population dense than the standard building layouts of a city like Reno. That is insane. And I know some of the naysayers in the comments are gonna be like, well, who wants to live in something that's small? So allow me to address that part now. This is a vertical cross-section of what one of these apartment units looks like. The bottom floor has a kitchenette and space to put a couch, an entertainment system, what have you. The upper floor has space for a single bed, space for a dresser, an alcove for clothing, and then you have a basic bathroom with sink, toilet, and shower. As far as wall dimensions, the outer walls are 9 inches thick, the inner support walls are also 9 inches thick, think 4.5 inches times 2, and the partition walls, you know, separating the stairwell and surrounding the bathroom, those are 6 inches thick. When I designed this, I started with a floor profile of 16 feet by 16 feet. After sculpting it and divvying it between 2 floors with a theoretical max area of 512, that means each apartment dweller has a combined livable area around 480-ish square feet, something just shy of 500, and a lot of this has to do with the nuances of the corner wall for the door and the window, as well as the space lost by the stairwell. Hey, you make compromises where you can. But let's use this as a springboard into the financials of a space like this. I looked up the pricings for a 1-bedroom apartment in Sky Vista Commons. It was around $1,300 a month for a 765 square foot apartment. But if we use that same figure for our floor plan, it would result in a monthly payment of around $815 a month. And that's not too bad, to be honest. Like, compare that to a city like San Francisco, Portland, or New York, where you're spending $2 to $3 grand a month on something even smaller than that. The whole point of this experiment was to increase the overall amount of housing per acre so that it would drive housing prices down to where people can actually afford it. I do think it's very wasteful that architects and urban planners in this country, despite knowing full well we are in a housing crisis, are doing literally nothing to put a stop to it. And that's why I want to do things differently. When I went to college this last time, I focused on tiny homes, and I will make videos about them eventually, as I keep saying I will, but this little experiment felt like it needed to be done first in order to work up to that. So I'm gonna leave the rest to y'all, and I'll ask you what you think. Do you think this layout has merit? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.